Okay. Well, I want to talk about this video that I saw from Destiny Ute. And she basically talked about how, like, it was a conversation between other women about how older women are losing their value. And there was a woman who came on and was like, did you guys know that younger women have more value? And I would like say this, like just to put this into to some context before I like say more, so that we can be clear and kind of be on the same page a little bit. Think about this. What if you had a diamond in Sierra Leone that was unmined and there was no mine that was like near that diamond? So like we know that if the diamond were to be mined and then transported to America and then refined and then sold at Tiffany's, it would be worth a lot, right? But if the diamond remains in Sierra Leone, it's worth nothing. The thing is, like, internationally, and I mean this, like internationally, if a female child is born, that female child already has a certain amount of worth, even if they never got a proper job, just because either being a wife where some man would be working and making a certain amount of money, or them entering eggs work, like they would by default minimum they would make a certain amount of money over their lifetime. Like female children I think are worth like $5 million. Like that's like the bottom of the barrel over their lifetime. Like that's how much money they would have the potential to work just from being alive and never getting a job, like a proper job. Like if they were just to be like born and then go to a brothel or something, or be born and then just get married. So that'd be like two choices that they had to make in their whole lives. So they never got a job, they never got any education, they never traveled anywhere, they never made any YouTube videos. Like they just never did any of that stuff. All they did was be born and make one of two choices, which is actually typically what happens in most places on Earth. Now, the reason that I think that this conversation is worth having, I think that some women have done a good job of like explaining why this is wrong, but I just kind of want to go a step further and explain something else, because I think it's weird that like I have to have the conversation. Like there are people who don't understand, like the bottom. Okay, at every increment in life, in the developed world, like people are doing things like in K through 12, right? You're going through the system there. Your parents are providing for you. So amongst your peers, you have like a competitive nature amongst your parents. Like what is it that your parents can provide for you that like someone else's parents may not be able to provide for them? What advantages do I have? What sort of talent or skills or beauty do I have that like someone else who's my age doesn't have? Okay, but then like all of the elementary school things fade and people have to start making decisions about life and in terms of how they're going to support themselves. Now, most people in the developing world choose either to get a job or to go to university to get a skill, then to be employed and get a job, or they would start their own career. Now, I feel like for women, this is kind of like we have to go back to, let's go back to our playbook that we established in the beginning of the video. Women can go to brothels or they can get married. These are like literally like kind of the two paths of women in terms of like women's obligation in a sense toward men. Now, something else is happening in the developed world, like America and Europe, the EU, the UK, where women are going to university and they are like, or they're getting jobs in economy and they're using that money to support themselves. Therefore, those two options that we described for all the other women on planet Earth are no longer the two options for these women, and they are choosing something else. There's even something different that's happening with, I think, this Lily girl who's like, she had sex with 100 men or something, where I feel like she's probably in the space where like a lot of her peers have like gone to college, or maybe she's even gone and still decided to do this, because even after college you can still refer back to those two pathways of like feminine or female survival tactics, like get married or go work in a brothel. So OnlyFans girls are kind of doing that, right? Except they're also like entrepreneurs, because they're like taking their own money in some way. Like if you just work with the platform, you can get paid in that way. And so you're working with the platform to produce the content, and then they're giving you things from the content. Anyway, so that's new. That's like very fucking new, and we have to like be serious about like how new that is. But if we're leveling the playing field, like let's say all women in America, it's very clear right now, because we have really clear examples like Nara Smith or Ballerina Farm, right, where these are women who are married to men who also have jobs and are producing things in the economy, and they are producing like content and you know, social media content, whatever, online, and they are bringing in their own money, but they are also like mothers, and they are like wives, and they have a lot of children. Like I think Nara Smith at this point has 4, and Ballerina Farm might have like 7 or something. That's kind of those are large numbers. Most people in the developing world are not having that many children. I saw something that Burb and Bougie posted that I thought was interesting, and it was like about the stigma around Black women having so many children. First of all, there just aren't that many Black women in America, and we'd have to be really clear about that. Like most of the Black women that you see on television, in any sort of social media, are not in America. Like all of the bloggers right now, there's 3 Black bloggers. Actually, there's 4 main Black bloggers that I follow. None of them are in America. I follow Lillian Tasigi, who's an Ethiopian blogger, and she's in Manchester. I follow Seggs, who's in Canada. I follow this other Black girl who's in London, I feel like, but she's doing a lot of like ice travel right now, so she's in like Switzerland and stuff. And there's this other girl who I think is in Paris. So I don't actually follow any American Black bloggers. And if we're talking about percentages, we know that the percentage of Black people total in America is about 12%, and it's shrinking every year by like 1%. It's not going to go up, because Black women are probably going to increase their relative amounts of abortions. Like I've talked about that so many times. We need to keep talking about that. But so that means that of the 12% of just Black people in America total, this is immigrants, everyone, only 6% of that is, so 6% of the females in the country are Black. I would say about 3% of those are probably immigrants. So then 3% are Black Americans, and like most Black American women are just very familiar with Planned Parenthood and are getting abortions. So there are not very many like continental Black American children being born in this country. And if you seriously believe that, and you have seen in your community or something a Black mother with like 5 kids, I think you don't even realize that you have found the elephant in the room, because that's not most Black women. Like most Black women are running to Planned Parenthood to abort their children. That's just the reality of it. The proportion of Black people in America is shrinking. The proportion of Black people globally is very large. We are the dominant group. If you didn't know this, surprise. Africa is the largest, most populous continent with the largest birth rate. And so, like, most of the people even in Africa don't look like me. They look more like maybe Thames, or maybe not even Thames, because they wear their hairstyle as close to Thames, but more like Thames than like me, or like a Tyla or something, which is very strange that she represents Africa. That's not even the point. The point is as more of these people come online, especially more of these women come online, they will find your content useful. So please make the content. But to go back, Why do people believe that women, as women in the developing world, even in the developed world, actually, just with the abundance of the internet and people being able to use like payment systems and all types of things like that, like women who have access to technology and are getting older are going to accrue more money because they're going to get a job or start a business in some way that's going to earn them money outside of their spouse. And just that in general kind of changes the dynamic of everything. Because honestly, most of the time when that starts happening, the women end up out earning the men. And for this reason alone, to all of the women who believe that like women are more valuable as they are younger, you are only more valuable to men who are predators and who kind of failed in their own league. What I'm saying is that as everyone is, if everyone in the developing world is kind of going through the system and other people are going through the system with them, so it's the people you went to school with who graduated the year that you graduated, who went to your college, and maybe you weren't the year as them, but maybe you're like 1 year above, 1 year behind. Those are the people who are your colleagues who you should be comparing yourself to. And if you're thinking about those men, the men that are sitting here like talking about how valuable like 18-year-old women are have failed with all of the women who are in their high schools, all of the women in their college, all of the women at their workplace. So for them to go after some 18-year-old person from the developing world, or even from America, who like doesn't know anything yet, who hasn't experienced anything, that's not a flex. That's not a flex. And I think that it's kind of pathetic, and it's wrong in so many ways, because I think it just takes away like this abstraction from actual society, which is something I feel like I confront on a daily basis. And some things that have been very hard for me in my life, like I really tried to like dilute any sort of like pretty privilege or things like that to be able to become a employee in a sense, because I just feel like I wanted to understand what it meant to rely on myself to be able to support myself, because I saw so many women in my family relying on men successfully and unsuccessfully, but it was just a huge turnoff for me where I didn't want that. It made me feel very gross. I feel like as I've seen more positive relationships or more positive examples of men supporting women in the real world, I understand how this could work. I'm just saying, for me growing up, it left a very sour taste in my mouth, because it's like, I don't even want to like anything that has to do with that. I want to stem far away from that. But that isn't even the point. I think that there's a very large space, especially for Black women, to have more conversations about economic opportunity, like worth as a woman and what that means. Like, you really should not be comparing yourself to other women. That is like the first thing, because first of all, like, unless you have become friends with some woman, you don't know her story. If you're trying to gather her story from like online, maybe what she posts, or especially from what other men have said, you are so wrong. You're just so wrong, because like men are out here lying. I'm trying to explain this to you, but I feel like some people have just never been on the receiving end of the male bullshit, so that they just don't understand. But like, men, especially a man who like doesn't have access to a woman that he wants access to, he will say anything. He will do anything. He's like not just delusional, he's like decrepit and dangerous. And I feel like all the other men know this, which is why it's like almost a running joke. But I feel like some of you guys just who are just on the internet just don't know, because you don't live in like real society. It's like in real society, these men are a joke, because like, why don't they already have wives? There's no reason. It's not because there seems to be this running narrative also, like all American women are so awful. Okay, so if so many American women are awful, how do we get Ballerina Farm and Nara Smith, who are making the most prominent female motherhood content, and it's coming like strictly from a Mormon society of women who are birthed in America like that. So that's clearly not it. It's that like you're probably listening to the wrong people, and I don't know how to say it louder, but like these losers are like so loud. Like go watch channels of people who like are moderately attractive in fucking real life. Like just stop watching ugly people on the internet say shit. Just go listen to people who are like moderately attractive, and then as you get to like really like hyper like attractive people, you start to see the difference in what they're saying, and things start to get more conservative because they make more sense, and the reality just lies really in those conservative values, unfortunately or fortunately. I don't know how to explain it, but society and human life lies there. There's another thing about, I think, extreme liberal kind of like life choices that makes it feel like I think you can understand those choices and live and how do you say like understand those ways, but at the end of the day you probably want someone to like listen to your needs, who understands your wants, who would support you emotionally as a person, who would care for you as a person. And that could, I'm not saying that that takes on any form or anything, but when people are 25 years single or something and they're trying to tell you like do this or do that or avoid this person or avoid that person, it's kind of like I don't know if you're like the best person to be taking this advice from. And I'm just a person who's saying this. I don't know like how much experience even I would have about saying it, but I'm just saying like when I was at level 0, right, where I literally was so naive and I didn't know, and I gotta tell you, there's just an extreme amount of predators who have come for me before I have even come for myself. Like, I didn't even realize I was a part of a system or a game or anything or some player, and I didn't know I was dating before I was like dating. Like, it's very difficult to explain, but I definitely did not jump head first into a bunch of relationships and then say like, oh, I'm having these experiences. Like I hear women talk all the time now about how they're, oh, this is my 20s and I'm doing this and I'm doing that, and I'm like, I didn't even understand. Like when I was in my early 20s, I definitely didn't know what that didn't have a meaning to me, and I didn't know like, yeah, I did not realize that I had inherent value, and I did not understand how other people were playing into kind of my naivety to really take advantage of that and have almost like stories to tell and like life lessons that they could protrude based on my naivety. And I feel like it's really important to talk about that, to enable and to talk about that as the woman, to say like other women like beware, like I think that it's actually really safe to do nothing and have none of the experiences kind of in your early 20s with a lot of these men, because they aren't seeking partnership, and I think that partnership is probably the goal for everyone, male and female alike. And so that partnership would depend on what other people have. Like men and women alike who are going through the world in regular jobs definitely are going to value things like companionship, things like compassion, things like kindness. Those are like just traits that certain humans like exhibit, and you can find that in probably a male or a female. Like, but all people have the potential to exhibit those traits, but those are characteristic traits that are really valuable no matter like what age the person is. So if you are a young person but you haven't had the ability to develop those traits, you're actually not this like desirable partner that you believe you are. You're simply like a young body, which is a lot of times why women become baby mamas, right? Because men can take advantage of their fertile womb without having to commit to anything else. So they take advantage of the fertile womb and toss out the human attached to it. And then the woman has to do all of this soul searching while typically also having to do all of this like financial searching while she's like figuring out how to put her feet on the ground and establish some sort of financial stability to take care of now her new child, and then also try to find herself, right? I feel like what a lot of women are missing in this conversation is that there's a real need to find yourself. Like, finding yourself is a real journey that you kind of should take, and it takes time and resources, definitely. And it doesn't, like, as you get older and you figure out more about yourself, you do not become less valuable. You become more valuable. And when you do find the person who you decide to share your time, your body, your experiences with, it is going to be so wonderful for them. Like, they are going to find so much joy for that. And I think that if in your mind you start putting that you are looking for that other person who wants to share those positive experiences with you, and you just kind of tune out everyone who's not, like, you'd have to understand, like, if you knew that that's what you were looking for, like a partner who would enable you to have these type of experiences that, you know, encompass your whole self, then everyone else who's talking about the bullshit, like who's just using you for your body, or talking about something that has to do with your age or some experience, oh, you work this job, or oh, this is who your parents are, whatever the bullshit is that they're talking about, you would be able to see that right away and say, like, oh, that's not what I'm looking for, and get comfortable with that rejection. Most of the people in the world are not your person. Like, 99% of the people in the world are not your, maybe even more, 99.9 of the percent of the people in the world are not your person. Your person is like 0.0001. The person that you're meant to share these experiences with, even I would say there's probably like even a smaller group of maybe 10 or 20 people. Maybe some of them include family members, but sometimes it might not even include family members, just close friends who deeply care about you as a person. Like, they want to know what's going on with you. They want to know your interests. They want to know your hobbies. They want to hear about the real you. And like, that's not most people. So as you get older and your tunnel vision becomes smaller and smaller and more discreet toward the person and the people who are specifically for you, that is not a bad thing, and you are not becoming less valuable. I just wanted to explain that.